Today we're going to be talking about Maria W. Stewart. She was a talented writer, teacher, and speaker who wasn't scared to challenge both slavery and oppression of women in early 19th century America. She was a woman who didn't just speak to her moment, but to her future, connecting freedom with education, faith, and equality. Well, some may be asking, but how did she leave an impact on the abolition movement? Well, Maria Stewart made a huge impact on the abolition movement through her public speeches and her writing. She was able to link together the fight against slavery with the fight for women's rights, especially the rights of Black women to have equal opportunities. With her strong connection to her Christian faith, Maria Stewart called slavery morally wrong and urged African Americans to fight for themselves. Her courage really inspires others. To fully understand Maria Stewart's significance, we need to talk about how she was so controversial and how that was just a part of who she was. To start with, in the 1830s, she broke a social rule by being the first to speak publicly as a Black African American woman to mixed audiences of men and women about anti-slavery. It was groundbreaking. When she was public speaking, she would not hold back. That was just not who she was. Stewart would directly criticize Black male leaders, accusing them for not doing enough to uplift the community and for leaning too much on white allies. Because of this, some people felt that she was very divisive. She would also call out religious leaders and Black churches for not following what they preach about equality and justice. This all sparked a lot of backlash. Some said that her tone was too bold and unfeminine, that she should be quieter to not provoke white hostility. But that's exactly what she wanted, and her courage to say what others wouldn't is exactly what makes her so important. She modeled a voice that later generations would recognize as essential leadership. When she would criticize Black men in churches, people thought it would divide the community, which is valid since criticism can feel uncomfortable. But Stewart believed that it would lead to a stronger movement. She challenged both sexism and religion, forcing people to confront uncomfortable truths. If a movement can't handle accountability, it can't handle victory either. In that sense, her controversy was really constructive pressure pushing abolitionism to be more inclusive and more consistent. With that being said, historians recognize Maria Stewart as one of the first African American women to speak publicly with confidence about race, women's rights, and religion in the 1800s. Her voice helped bridge early abolitionism and early women's rights, foregrounding the experiences and aspirations of Black women. Maria Stewart encouraged education as a strategy for freedom. She didn't separate moral arguments from practical tools. For Stewart, knowledge was a path to self-respect and independence. You'll also see researchers connect Stewart's thoughts to later leaders, like Sojourner Truth among women abolitionists and Frederick Douglass among speakers and editors, arguing that Stewart helped open the door for Black women leaders and thinkers. Even when the historical record is brief, the scholarly census is clear. Her influence matters because it reframed the conversation, bringing Black women's equality and education to the center. Let's look closely at Maria Stewart's 1833 speech called An Address, African Rights and Liberty, delivered in Boston. The speech is one of the first public addresses by a Black American woman called for racial equality. In this address, Stewart urges free Black Americans to pursue education and take action. She insists that rights must be claimed, not passively awaiting. And she calls out both white oppression and complacency within her own community. This was classic Stewart. Her rhetoric is deep in Christian faith. She argues that slavery violates divine justice and that genuine faith requires courage and work. For Stewart, faith isn't an escape from politics, it's a mandate to act. She also rejects the colonization society's plan to relocate African Americans to America. Stewart insists that freedom and equality must be won here in the United States. That stance ties her to a broader tradition of Black citizenship claims. We belong here, and we will fight for our rights here. Well, some may ask, well, why does this even matter? Taken in all of this together, the address shows Stewart's strategies, which is to educate, organize, and claim dignity. This address was a great way to show how Maria Stewart didn't just critique the obvious enemies of freedom, but she also challenged her own community and institutions to rise to their professed values. Thank you.